Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again. This is our weekly media briefing with Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is Mr. Paul Pinsky, who is the Director of the Maryland Energy Administration. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Mr. County Executive, good afternoon, and let's get started.
Good afternoon, and welcome everybody to this week's briefing. While we're rightly focused on the shutdown, SNAP benefits, and the ongoing attacks on the social safety net, there's so much to keep us busy. There's another front that deserves attention, and that's the environment. And this little headline here from the Post, Trump proposal would limit protections for U.S. waterways. Shocking, I know. According to a recent Washington Post report, the Environmental Protection Agency under the Trump administration has proposed a new rule that would dramatically weaken the Clean Water Act. The rule limits protections only to relatively permanent bodies of water, like rivers or lakes, with a continuous surface connection, which means that many wetlands and smaller streams would no longer be protected. Environmental groups estimated that up to 95% of the wetlands nationwide could lose federal oversight as a result. For a place like Montgomery County, that's not an abstract problem. We have more than 1,500 miles of streams running through our neighborhoods, parks, and backyards, each one contributing to our drinking water, our natural habitats, and our overall resilience to flooding. Some of these waterways are classified as Tier 2 high-quality streams, meaning they're clean and healthy enough to warrant extra protection. Our county's Department of Environmental Protection monitors more than 150 sub-watersheds to track their condition. And that data helps guide how we plan growth and invest in restoration. If federal protection disappears, those local efforts become much harder. Pollution doesn't respect boundaries, and once a wetland is filled or stream paved over, it's gone for good. If there's anyone in this state who is irate about this news as I am, it's my friend and administrator for the Maryland Energy Administration, Paul Pinsky. Paul's about to retire at the end of the month. I invited him here to join us today on the briefing to thank him for his work in partnership with us at MEA, but also his decades of service as one of the state's most progressive leaders over the last 3 decades. Paul was appointed by Governor Moore in 2023 to be the MEA administrator, but most of us throughout the state know him from 36 years representing Prince George's County in the General Assembly as both a delegate and a senator. I know him going back to being a teacher, which is way more years ago. He sponsored the Climate Solutions Now legislation, which has put the state on a course to slash greenhouse gas emissions by 60% by 2031. His work on the Healthy Air Act and the Clean Energy Jobs Act has moved the state forward, and Paul's been an advocate for the quality of our rivers and our watersheds. And in fact, he even swam in the Anacostia River to demonstrate its toxicity. How did that go? Like me, Paul's a former teacher. His work in Annapolis also focused on improving teacher quality, and he was instrumental in implementing both Thornton and Kirwan Commission funding recommendations, as well as helping pass the blueprint for Maryland's future. I want to thank Paul and Governor Moore for awarding Montgomery County more than $2 million in competitive clean energy grants this year. These funds are going to help us install solar canopies and EV chargers, upgrade lighting for safety and efficiency, and make the Holiday Park Senior Center our first net zero county facility. Projects like these reduce emissions, save taxpayers money, and improve public health, and I appreciate the teamwork across our county departments and the state to build a cleaner and more resilient future for our residents. I'm going to turn it over to Paul now, allow him to share his thoughts on his tenure at MEA, where the state is going in terms of clean energy investments, and any of his other thoughts on any subject he wishes to talk about. So thank you for joining us, Paul.
Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive, and we do go back many years. We had a lot of conversations on Goody Drive over the years in our teaching careers and teacher organizing careers. Look, I spent 36 years in the legislature. Mark mentioned a few of them: the Blueprint for Maryland's Future and the Climate Solutions Now Act. And Governor Moore was gracious to invite me to lead the Energy Administration these past 3 years. Look, a number of counties have done great work, Montgomery, Howard, others, in transforming, using clean energy, using solar, in some cases moving to heat pumps. It's a challenge. Reaching the 60% reduction will be a heavy lift. I understand that. When it passed, it was suggested, why don't we put language in the law that says it's aspirational? And I rejected that. I said, if we're going to set a direction, let's set a course direction with a North Star. And it was not aspirational, it's the law of the land. If we don't reach it, that's another story. We have great challenges, as the county executive mentioned, from Washington. He led off the Zoom. Look, the one big ugly bill did a lot of damage. The president, who is not a believer, is a denier of climate change, said, let's try to destroy solar and offshore wind as much as possible, and let's build up fossil fuels, gas and oil. And he's a creature of that. So it's a challenge. And I think all of us, and I won't go long, Mark, every night on the news, for those of us who still watch the nightly news, it's led by hurricane, flooding, tornado, sea level rise, first and second story virtually every night. And that's because the effects of climate change are growing and worsening. So we at MEA are trying to do our best to get as much solar out there, geothermal, heat pumps, energy efficiency. We have a number of schools in the state that are carbon net zero, which means between when they're built, they put geothermal under the soccer field, they use heat pumps, and they use solar, and they have enough clean energy to run the school. And on good days, it actually spins the meter in the other direction. So we've got to be more conscious and intentional. That's what I've tried to bring into the state and to MEA. My ally, my Sundance kid, the Butch Cassidy, Ian Ullman will be the acting director. So look, I think we have challenges, but I'm excited about the future. But we have to keep our eyes on the prize. And Mark, thank you for the kind words. Working for the public good, as you know so well, is satisfying. It's frustrating at times, whether it's local, state, or federal government, but we got to keep moving forward, and I hope to do it in retirement as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Pinsky, for joining us this afternoon. Members of the media, we're going to open it up for questions, if you might have any at this time for Director Pinsky. If you do have questions, please raise your hands right here on the chat. I see Jenny Abamu has a question. WMAU, good afternoon, Jenny. Go ahead.
Hi, Jenny Abamu with WAMU. I'm really curious about, since you're going out, what you see as the reason for rate increases with energy costs. This is something that all people are talking about, and there's also questions about, Maryland's ability to generate enough energy in the state. And, people have, the generators have blamed the climate goals as part of the reason why they've had to close. There have been questions about the agreements that have been placed and to keep energy generation on and how much that's cost ratepayers. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on some of these things.
No, it is the question of the day, Jenny, and people are talking about it. It's either the first or second issue they raise of their energy bills. No question about it. Look, I believe that the PJM, which stands for, it's a regional transmission organization that covers 13 states and Washington, D.C., which should be a state, but that's another story. And they make sure energy gets from one state to another. And it's important to note 12 of those 14 entities are energy importers. I mean, the big 800-pound gorilla is Pennsylvania, that has a lot of nuclear, has a lot of coal. And I have to say, I put a significant amount of the blame on the PJM. While it's a nonprofit, it is not a for-profit operation. The energy generators, mostly fossil fuels, have the controlling voice. I mean, the states have zero voice. And they have had a queue for new energy sources, and it's been closed for 3 years. And this year, only 2 gigawatts are going to be interconnected. Now they started to change their practices, and they say over the coming year or two there'll be 12 gigawatts. But when they closed the queue and they had this big backlog, the people that benefited were the fossil fuel companies. In the queue, in the line, there's much more solar, and it's economics 101. You know, if you have limited supply, demand goes up and prices go up. And for that matter, they have not approved and connected a lot of new energy, and a lot of that new energy is clean, so it increases prices. And that's been an abomination, you know, and the utilities have a part in this as well, in my opinion. They're replacing pipe that doesn't need replacement. So I think there's a fair amount of blame to go around, but it has to be a very important point of the governor's strategy and each county to take on some of these big stakeholders.
So, just to follow up, sorry, but since you're saying this is PJM, because PJM is blaming the generators, you all are blaming PJM. So, like, I'm just kind of making sure I understand this. What is the state's role in controlling all of this? I know that there's been push to get people on the board of PJM and et cetera. What's going on there?
No. Again, Jenny, you're on top of it. They have they have an oversight board, and mostly it's been generators and experts. This past summer, there were 2 openings, and 8 states, governors of 8 states, wrote to PJM saying, you know, we'd like someone who's somewhat sensitive to state interests. And they offered one proposal, and that was Mark Christie, who was the former chair of FERC, and also a moderate Republican from Virginia. And PJM said, thank you, but no thank you, go pound sand. And on the membership committee, the states don't have a voice. The states, Office of People's Counsel, those representing ratepayers, have about 10%. So the interest of states have to be more central to PJM. Now, I think with all the criticism, they're beginning to take care of the backlog. And today they're actually meeting to talk about the way forward, including what role data centers should have. You know, and the projection for Maryland's demand is almost flat. So the increase in demand is coming from outside of Maryland. In the large degree, it's data centers. And in my opinion, they shouldn't pull from the grid. They should bring new additional energy, and preferably clean energy.
Thank you, Jenny. Members of the media, any additional questions for Maryland Energy Administrator, Director Mr. Pinsky? Any more questions this afternoon? Well, Director, thank you so much for joining us. You can remain on this media briefing if you'd like, but if you need to depart, please feel free to do so. You were going to say something, Mr. County Executive?
Yeah, I want to just reinforce what Paul had to say about PGM. PGM has no commitment to the public interest. There's no indication that they care about ratepayers, at least if they're residential ratepayers, or anything else. And we had our own experience in Montgomery County. We had a big kerfuffle in the Ag Reserve about solar, and then we had people try to get solar hookups from it's not Pepco, it's the northern one, Potomac Edison, and Potomac Edison's willingness to add solar energy to their portfolio was virtually negligible. It was like a 5-year wait to get small solar projects in because of limitations and how much they were willing to absorb every year. It's absurd, and this wasn't big enough solar to move the needle in a big way. Certainly wouldn't have overwhelmed their system, but they're not helpful at all. And the fact that we don't make a bigger, that state or PGM doesn't make a bigger emphasis on solar and alternatives is really troubling. There was another article in the Washington Post about this huge solar installation going into Texas, like the largest floating solar installation anywhere. And it's like, so how is it that the president hates solar and tries to shut it down everywhere? But if it's in Texas, they can build the biggest solar plants in the world, and Texas has lots of wind. This isn't just his hatred of the environment, but he tempers that with what he does for red states, and it's harming all of us. And PGM is a willing participant in this thing, and the idea that this is not a public service commission where decisions are made for the public benefit, rather a private and a nonprofit masquerading as independent, which is basically controlled by the industry, that's got to come to an end.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Again, Director Pinsky, you can remain, or if you need to depart, please do so. Any other topics at this point?
Sure. First place, I'm happy to welcome Jennifer Macedonia as Montgomery County's new Director of Environmental Protection. She was unanimously confirmed by the council on Tuesday. Jennifer is a nationally recognized environmental leader with over 30 years of experience. She brings deep experience in climate policy, clean energy, and environmental protection from her time at the Environmental Protection Agency, back when it was actually an environmental protection agency. Under her leadership and through the Inflation Reduction Act money, several new programs were launched to help reduce the amount of carbon monoxide being produced through transportation, the building sector, and power production. And that's the kind of leader we need here in Montgomery County, which has led the way in developing policies and practices that help us to move forward on our climate action plan. Her proven leadership and strong local roots make her an outstanding choice to lead our efforts toward a cleaner and healthier and more sustainable future. And I want to highlight her remarks to the County Council. She told them about her passion for protecting human health and the environment, as well as her commitment to using a data-driven and analytical approach to accomplishing our goals. It stands in stark contrast to the non-science-based reasons for many of the decisions being made in Washington today, in which the environment has been shoved to the back in order to advance the interests of fossil fuel companies and large corporations whose sole raison d'etre is to maximize profits, regardless of the impacts on our health or on the environment. I look forward to her starting her new role, serving as our resident on December 1st. And she is a resident of Montgomery County herself, so she's going to live where her policies take effect. Yesterday, the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation announced its new president and CEO, Jared Smith, who had most recently been the economic development head of Hendersonville, Nevada, a large suburb of Las Vegas. This is an important next step in advancing the county's long-term economic development strategy. And from what I've learned so far, I believe that MCEDC's next CEO can be a strong addition to the team. We all know there are challenges ahead, but we've made meaningful progress, and we're looking to build a more coordinated approach to economic development. Jared brings hands-on experience with both local and regional efforts in other jurisdictions, and that perspective is going to be valuable as MCEDC continues to work to attract new investment in a way that aligns with our county priorities. His background in supporting small businesses is particularly relevant here in the county, and small businesses are the backbone of the local economy, and strengthening that ecosystem remains a central part of our growth strategy. And I know one of the other things that he had to focus on was the diversification of the economy in Hendersonville, that area which is highly reliant on the entertainment center of Las Vegas. Also runs into headwinds, as many of us do when you're a basically one economy area. And, like Montgomery County for years, driven by the federal government and long thought to be recession proof, we've in the last decade or so realized being dependent on a single industry is not sufficient. And so the work we're doing to try to diversify here, do things we haven't done before, I think can only be amplified by bringing in a director who has a background in diversifying a local economy. So I look forward to connecting to him in coming weeks and discussing how together we can continue to move the county forward. This weekend in the East County, Senator Angela Ossobrooks is hosting an opportunity to receive help, information, and guidance on utility concerns. Cold weather's on the way as we approach the holidays, and that's expected to strain family budgets because of the cost of energy is going to be higher. Some families also struggle to afford the cost of internet at home, which can be a valuable tool for education and job searching. We are not water, energy, or wide-scale internet providers, but we do work closely with WSSC and PEPCO on infrastructure and other matters. And I've shared through my newsletters before, these companies have the ability to help their customers who cannot afford to pay their entire bill all at once. This utility fair is a good opportunity to learn more about those programs directly from companies like Xfinity, Verizon, and Exelon. And I appreciate Senator Alsobrooks and her staff for organizing these events around the state. The Utility and Internet Services Fair will be held from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the East County Community Center at 3310 Gateshead Manor Way. And Senator Alsobrooks is also asking for SVPs through a QR code that she's sharing on social media. And we put that information into the chat in case you want to share it with your audiences. On Thursday, the Montgomery County Public School Board is going to vote on the superintendent's capital improvements budget request. This request is an eye-opener. Capital improvements budget is separate from the money we spend every year through the operating fund. These are large, long-term investments in facilities and infrastructure. The budget encompasses all over the county's needs, but obviously this week's vote by MCPS leaders would only focus on the improvements that impact schools. This fiscal year, which plans out spending over a 6-year period, roughly a quarter of the budget's devoted to school improvements, and that's our second largest expenditure behind transportation. MCPS request this year is 54% higher than last year. Works out to about $160 million more each year over 6 years. And even with that level of investment, we still won't clear the backlog that is built up over so many years. The long-term lack of transparency by the school system led to this sudden revelation. This isn't a sudden problem. This is a long brewing problem. I mean, long, going back to when I was on the council and before. But the flip side, the school system never asked for what they needed. But the flip side of that is that school officials looked at the county budget to see what they could feasibly ask for. And it was pretty clear that a budget that hadn't been adjusted for inflation, in fact, it's been adjusted downward, was not going to have room for what was needed. And can I ask my folks to put that graph back up, because I want to explain that graph, please? So this should give you all a long-term view of Montgomery County's capital budgets. And if you go back to 2009, we were spending about $300 million a year. And if we had just adjusted the $300 million from 2009 by inflation to buy the same things we bought in 2009, we'd be spending $550 million right now. The lower line is what councils have done over time. They went up slightly. We peaked around 2016, I guess around 2015, 2016, and then we've gone back downhill, and we've had 4 years now at $280 million a year as our cap. That's not even close to keeping pace with inflation. It is actually going in the reverse direction of inflation. So as anybody with common sense knows, if I put an item into the budget back in 2019, and it's in a 6-year CIP, and it's something I have to budget for in 2025, there is no way that project costs what it was projected to cost in 2019. Inflation has eroded those dollars, and that's what you can see in the charts here. I've asked for increases in the cap before. This year, we asked for $340 million. It wouldn't get us to where we need to be, but it would be a $60 million. And over 6 years, it would have been $360 million with some inflation adjustments in there, finally. The council voted only to go to $300 million. It is totally unrealistic to deal with the problems that Montgomery County has when you're unwilling to increase the CIP. It's created a serious long-term problem for us. So the school system's partly to blame, but when they look at council actions, this council, previous councils, and see the unwillingness to add money to capital programs, they probably didn't make the effort they should have made to make all of us aware of what the needs were in the school system. This is one of the reasons that not telling people what you need is a problem. I've heard from people already who don't understand why MCPS suddenly needs this money. And why would they understand when budget after budget, nobody ever laid out what their real needs were? In October, like I said, they approved the $300 million. That's not going to get us anywhere close to this. They may revisit this sometime later next year, I guess after the first of the year, and I look forward to those discussions. Still, the limitations put a burden on the capital budget making process, make it harder to meet the needs of our residents and keep our commitments to our schools, infrastructure, and facilities. Were we to undertake spending the $160 million under current circumstances, it would pretty much destroy everything else in the budget that's not a school project. So we have to figure out how we're going to responsibly fund the schools. And I think we're going to need to take a hard look at our capital budgeting. I've proposed an approach that would closely resemble what the district and Northern Virginia counties have been doing in regard to infrastructure funding. The Montgomery way, as people like to call the way we do things, of handling capital spending doesn't work, hasn't worked for a couple of decades, and it does not meet our needs. It's led us to fall behind in school construction, and it's led us to fall behind in construction of any transit in this county. Please listen carefully to how MCPS is laying out the problems that they face. It's real. Superintendent Dr. Thomas Taylor put forth a more accurate reflection of the facility needs that MCPS has. Previous administrations have not shown us the full picture, and now we have to prioritize the needs of our schools. And I know this comes on top of last year when we had to deal again with a problem when suddenly the school system needed 700 more staff for special education. Of course, those needs were brewing over years. They were not presented to the council. People did not understand the magnitude of the problem until it was sprung on us, and then we had to respond to it because it would have been irresponsible not to provide those positions. But this creates problems. Transparency is really helpful. When Dr. Taylor was hired, I said our schools needed and deserve strong leadership because it's crucial to keep us among the country's most highly regarded school districts. And I appreciate the superintendent's honesty and transparency when it comes to the needs of MCPS. I look forward to reviewing the school board final approved recommended capital budget, and I'll be sending my recommended 6-year capital budget proposal to the council in mid-January. The council held a work session last week actually this week on the University Boulevard Corridor Plan to consider amendments to the plan that were recommended by the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. They agreed to adopt some of the improvements to the plan. They changed some of the zoning recommendations sent over by the planning board. Thank you for doing some of that. They lowered densities and heights, and they agreed to retain the existing zoning on the Woodmore Shopping Center, a place that none of the residents asked to be leveled and replaced, but the planning board thought it was a good idea. They also agreed to dispense with the street grid recommendations that would have blasted open the streets in the neighborhoods and made it much more congested and more problematic. It's a residential neighborhood, and they've got enough problems as it is. Turning it into a thoroughfare. Thoroughfares inside this neighborhood would have been really a problem, and it would have compromised the safety of these neighborhoods. However, the attempt to introduce housing affordability into the rezoning with single-family residential units on the corridor fell far short. As a result, there's a distinct possibility that naturally occurring affordable homes will be replaced by more expensive duplexes and townhouses, resulting in the displacement of current residents. If a person were to build a duplex instead of a triplex on a single-family lot, they would have no affordable requirement. If they build a triplex, they have affordable requirement only for workforce housing, and workforce housing can encompass people who are earning 100% of area median income, which for a family of 4 is somewhere around $172,000. Not exactly the part of our population that is struggling to find housing, and doing only that leaves out so many people, particularly minorities whose incomes are half of what the incomes are of white or Asian people in this county, kind of leaves them out of what's going to be planned along University Boulevard, except for the fact that their existing housing is likely to be displaced. Councilmember Will Jonda was not successful in his attempts to introduce changes that would address affordability and racial equity issues. This is another example of multiple master plans, including the Thrive Plan, which is the general plan that were evaluated for racial equity, where the council and the planning board were told that there were racial problems with equity in their plans, and where those issues were not addressed. There's kind of like no point to having racial equity policies if you're not going to pay attention to them. There's also no serious discussion of the lack of jobs in this area. This, along with the failure to recognize that bus rapid transit is not even in the earliest planning stages, means that additional residential development will likely precede the infrastructure improvements necessary to support that development. Moreover, while the plan touts BRT as a traffic reliever, the fact is that the increased density in the corridor will result in more drivers in the corridor on top of its current level, leading to more, not less congestion. If we're lucky with BRT, and it's also true with light rail, if we catch 20 to 30% of the people in a catchment area, we're doing a good job. But that means if you had 1,000 units and say 2,000 people trying to get to work, you're capturing 600 of potentially 2,000 trips. That means 1,400 more trips wind up on your roads. It is not a solution to a problem. They shouldn't hide behind it as a panacea. This is just simply the wrong place to increase density in the county. It's not near any job centers. It will subtract from the hoped for, but so far unrealized residential growth in Wheaton, making it less viable as a center. This is not good for the future of Wheaton. And it ignores the whole focus of decades of master planning. I know a little bit about this. I spent 12 years on the council. I was an activist before that. And then as a county executive, I've seen 8 years of planning. We're up to recently, we were focusing on development around the metro and around the county's activity centers. This completely shifts the focus away from metro and activity centers and puts it in your residential neighborhood. As I said before, it ignores all of our master plans that have capacity for more than the projected number of households anticipated by 2050. In other words, the housing we need, we've actually planned for, which park and planning refuses to tell you. And we've planned for in the same corridors that are targeted for growth, which is where we deliberately did these things. This is simply a device to give townhouse developers the opportunity to turn existing neighborhoods into greenfields. And if anybody says this is about rapid housing and we're going to build housing quickly, any plan that relies on every individual homeowner, and there are a couple thousand of them, to make a decision to turn their house into a duplex or a triplex, or to partner with another homeowner to build a stick of townhouses. Anybody who thinks this is going to rapidly build housing, let alone solve our affordable housing issue, is just imagining things. They're imagining it because it's a way to give developers access to something they want, large tracts of property. And it's not a good way to go about doing this. To focus on safety issues of prime importance in the area was also strange, suggesting that rezoning is necessary to implement improvements. As Councilmember Katz pointed out, it takes years to implement master plan recommendations, while safety improvements are needed now and should be addressed through other means. Actually, those other means were actually in progress because the state of Maryland is working on the university corridor for safety improvements. It's as if Park and Planning didn't even know this process existed. Statements by planning board representatives made it clear that the university corridor plan is their blueprint for future plans. So for the rest of you in the neighborhoods around the county, if you think this is just about University Boulevard and you don't have to, University Boulevard isn't your neighborhood, not true. This is the plan for the corridors in the county. The council's actually expanded the number of corridors in the county, and this is their plan for every corridor. It's coming to Georgia Avenue. It's coming to Connecticut Avenue. It is coming to many places in the county, and it's not just going to stick to the corridor. It's going to go into the interior of neighborhoods. So do not take any comfort by the fact this is University Boulevard. It is not the end. It's the beginning. That being the case, we can expect future plans that are singularly focused on rezoning single-family residential neighborhoods while giving scant consideration to other master plan elements intended to create complete communities. It's not surprising that many people see this as an open invitation to developers to intensify existing neighborhoods. And, the strategy is pretty clear what developers would do. You go in and you do a project, you decrease the desirability of a neighborhood either by adding enough new housing that you create congestion. It's not adequate. You don't have adequate parking. You make being there less desirable when it was a single family neighborhood. And then you have people willing to sell out to developers, and it cascades through a neighborhood. This is a patented way of developers and planning agencies changing neighborhoods by making them less desirable. And this is really unfortunate that we're seeing this here in Montgomery County. It's also this whole idea of rezoning single-family neighborhoods is borrowed from the Koch brothers. It's kind of surprising and more than a tad shocking that we're borrowing something from the Koch brothers. So we've directed our staff to prepare a resolution the council's directed staff to prepare a resolution incorporating the changes they made, and they will meet on December 2nd to review the several chapters. If you're concerned at all, you need to get your comments into the county council before they meet and vote, and they're planning a final adoption vote on December 9th. Another good news, SNAP benefits have resumed. Benefits from November finally started reaching families. There's still some unevenness in all of this. Food drives intended to help workers and contractors through WorkSource Montgomery and Manna Center are still set for November 21st and December 5th, respectively. Our community partners report demand at local food banks has doubled since the pandemic. And since social safety net services remain critical now with higher healthcare costs on the way in January, that could force thousands of people to lose their health insurance. I'll stop there. Our HHS team, along with Dr. Stoddard and Luisa Cardona, are in a meeting today, so we're going to go straight to questions.
Excellent. And I see Sioli Hakobi from Bethesda today has the hand up. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can. Yes.
So I just wanted to ask the county executive, yesterday was Gabe Albernaz's last
Yes.
meeting as a county council member. Wanted to see if we could get an update on the timeline for you transmitting your nomination of him to lead the Parks Department to the council and when you think they might take up that issue.
I think it's going to be taken up by the council in January. I don't know if they can do it quickly enough. We will get it over there, but they've got time periods they've interviews, they've got a period of comment. So it should happen early January.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sioli. Members of the media, any additional questions for the county executive today? Oh, I see Mariam Shasad, Montgomery Community Media. Good afternoon, Mariam.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to ask with the, having the new DEP director here and what you were talking about earlier with the Trump proposal with the waterways, and she came from the EPA. Are you thinking that she's going to be able to potentially help the county fill in any gaps that happen? I don't even know if that's possible because I know this is something federal, but do you think she's going to be able to, help the county address any issues that are going to happen with our streams?
Well, I think she can help us address issues regarding our streams because her background is in EPA. She's not only a known quantity, but she's worked in this field. So having her expertise, understanding things at a federal level will be very helpful. How we react to this, we're going to have to talk to our attorneys, particularly environmental lawyers, to see how the federal designation of streams affects local designation of streams. I am hoping that we have some ability to maintain control, but if this comes down to, if it's not defined by the federal government, you can't protect it. Like much of this country is completely screwed. It is a disaster in the making, and this is our clean water, and allowing people unmitigated development of areas that are our clean water is going to be a real problem. So hopefully it's not as bad as it possibly appears, but it may be as bad. Could be worse.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariam. Any additional questions for the county executive today? No more questions? Well, thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Mhm.